I am 105 years old, and my secret to a long life has nothing to do with food or exercise or any of that. My secret is regret. It's a powerful fuel. You see, I have spent a century running from a single moment, a single choice. Everyone congratulates me on my age, on this achievement. They talk about healthy aging and living longer. They don't understand. This isn't living. This is a sentence. I had a marriage after 60 years that was just a quiet, lonely room. I have financial security, a comfortable retirement, and it means nothing. Because I made the safe choice, and I have lived with that life regret every single day for 80 years. I traded a short, real life for a long, careful one, and it was the worst retirement mistake you could ever make. I buried my true love in 1946, and then I buried myself. Stay with me. I need to tell you exactly where I went wrong. My life in 1946 was a quiet, polished cage. I felt the weight of my engagement ring on my finger every single day. I worked at the library, shelving books in a predictable rhythm. My future with Charles was all planned. It felt like a beautiful book, you see, but when you opened it, all the pages inside were blank. Honestly, it was safe. I thought that was enough. Then, on a Tuesday afternoon, a man walked into the history section. He had these storm cloud eyes, and my orderly world just fractured. He introduced himself as Thomas Vance. His hands had a slight tremor. He told me later it was from the war. He wasn't looking for a history book, though. He asked me for poetry. Rilke. We talked right there between the stacks. His voice was low. He said, "I think my soul recognizes yours." I felt that deep in my chest. The air in the whole library seemed to change. I was engaged to a good man, but in 5 minutes this stranger saw parts of me I didn't dare show anyone. After that, his visits became my secret, the secret axis my whole world spun on. I carried that thrill right next to the guilt of my engagement ring. Then I had 2 lives. Evenings with Charles were pleasant. We talked about practical things, the house we might buy, the number of children. It was all so sensible. But my stolen moments with Thomas, they were different. They were charged with something desperate and poetic. We talked about art and loss and the wide world he'd seen. I felt myself splitting into 2 different women, the one Charles knew and the one only Thomas saw. The pressure built up inside me until I thought I might break. Then Thomas asked me to meet him, after my shift on Friday, at the pier. The walk to the waterfront felt endless. The air smelled of salt and fish and engine oil. It was cold. I could hear the foghorns and the gulls crying. Big ships loomed in the gray water. I stood there, feeling the solid, safe land behind me, and ahead of me, the vast, terrifying ocean. He was already there, waiting. He looked at me and my heart just hurt. He didn't smile. He said, "Alara," just my name. Then he took both my hands. His were cold. He said, "Choose the adventure. Choose us." He asked me to run away with him, to leave everything. His voice was raw. I froze. A flood of fear washed over me. I thought of Charles, his kind, confused face. I thought of my parents and their expectations. I thought of the sheer terror of the unknown, of stepping onto one of those ships. The weight of it all pressed down on me. I couldn't breathe. I looked at Thomas's eyes, full of hope, and I just I pulled my hands away from his. I whispered, "I can't." The word was so small. A foghorn blared, drowning out the sob in my throat. I watched his face change. Hope just drained away. It was replaced by a quiet devastation. I knew I had caused it. I turned around. I walked away. Every step back to the street felt like a hammer blow on my own future. For 2 weeks I was a ghost. I jumped at every phone call. I couldn't eat. I was haunted by that last look on his face. Then the news came. His plane, lost over the Atlantic. No survivors. The silence that followed was the coldest thing I've ever felt. It swallowed the whole world. I had said no, and then the universe took him anyway. I realized I had killed us both that day on the pier. In that horrible numb void, Charles was there. He was steady. He was a raft in that cold sea. I clung to him. When he suggested we move the wedding date forward, I just nodded. I said yes. My wedding day came. I wore a white dress. The lace was stiff at my neck. People said I looked serene. One of my aunts said that. "She looks so serene, Charles." I remember staring at my own reflection in a champagne flute. I didn't see a bride. I only saw the ghost of the woman who had died on that pier weeks before. Charles squeezed my hand under the table. He thought my stillness was calm. He mistook my emptiness for peace. That night, I buried Alara Finch beside Thomas Vance. A polite stranger named Alara Vance took her place, and she lived in my skin for a very, very long time. That polite stranger, Alara Vance, she did her job. She kept the house clean. She made Charles's meals. We had a son, Robert. When they placed him in my arms, he was just a tiny red-faced thing. But as he grew, oh, as he grew, he had this way of looking at the world, a fierce curiosity. He wasn't interested in normal boy things. At 7, he'd sketch these wild, imaginative landscapes. The concentration on his face, it was Thomas's. Pure Thomas. It stole my breath. Here was this secret piece of him living in my house. I poured all that forbidden love into Robert. It was a secret tribute, but he felt it, I think. He grew up and he grew away. He was so bright, so restless, just like his real father. And then he was gone too, a car accident. He was only 34. The silence he left behind was different. It was fresh. It was another piece of me, gone. After Robert, the house felt like a museum of quiet. Charles and I moved through it politely. We had dinner at 6. We watched the news. We grew old together, but we were never truly together, you see. He was a kind man. He deserved better than a ghost. On my 100th birthday, they threw a party. The room was full of flowers from distant relatives. Someone said, 100 years, what an incredible life. I looked around at all those faces and I realized they were celebrating a performance. I was just a curator of a museum dedicated to a life I never lived. That was my breaking point. I saw it all clearly. I was wrong about everything. I had traded a single terrifying yes for 10,000 safe, empty days. The cost was everything. It was Thomas. It was my own soul. It was the mother I could have been to Robert if I hadn't been hiding. After Charles passed, the quiet became absolute. I just waited. Then, last week, my granddaughter Clara came. She was hesitant. She said, "Grandma, I found these." She placed a brittle, water-stained packet in my lap. Thomas's handwriting. My hands shook. The first line read, "My dearest Alara, I write this not to persuade, but to tell you that wherever I am, my love for you is the only fixed point." I sat there and cried, not for what I lost, but for what I had thrown away. That's when I understood. This long life wasn't a blessing. It was the echo of a promise I broke. My body just lasted, stubbornly, while my heart never left that pier. That's when I understood. This long life wasn't a blessing. It was the echo of a promise I broke. My body just lasted, stubbornly, while my heart never left that pier. I've had a century to think about it, and I was wrong about everything. I thought love was a feeling you had. It's not. It's a thing you do. It's a choice you make, over and over, even when it's terrifying. I chose the feeling of safety over the act of love. I chose a plan over a person, and I paid for it with the only currency that ever matters, my own truth. I thought by saying no to Thomas, I was being responsible. I was being good. But all I did was build a very respectable cage. I served a life sentence in it, and I was my own warden. The food I ate, the air I breathed, none of that mattered. What kept me going was the ghost of that other life, the ghost of us. My body became an echo chamber for a love story that ended before it began. That's the secret. Longevity isn't about kale or exercise. It's about the story you tell yourself. Mine was so heavy, so full of unfinished business, that my heart just kept beating out of sheer stubbornness, waiting for a resolution that never came. So here is my advice, plain and simple. Don't make my mistake. Don't perform. I performed being a wife for Charles. I performed being serene. I performed being alive for 100 years. All that performance does is hollow you out. It leaves you sitting in a room full of flowers on your 100th birthday, wondering who all the fuss is for. If you're in a room that feels too quiet, if you're next to someone you don't truly see, stop. Just stop. Look at them, or have the courage to leave that room. It's not too late. Maybe you can't run away to a pier anymore, but you can be honest. Tell one true thing to someone today. Tell them what you're afraid of. Tell them what you really wanted to be, or who you really loved. That's where you start. Unclench your fist. Let the safe, sensible plan fall away. It's just dust. The weight you're carrying isn't duty. It's regret in disguise. Put it down, and please, don't believe that you've missed your chance. That's the most dangerous lie. I believed it for 80 years. I thought because I said no on that one afternoon, my chance at a real life was gone. But life isn't a single door that slams shut. It's a corridor with many doors, and most of them are unlocked. We're just too afraid to try the handle. You still have time. Maybe not decades, maybe not years in the way you count them, but you have now. This afternoon, this evening, that is enough. A single authentic moment is worth more than a lifetime of polite ones. It's not about grand gestures. It's about the next true word you speak. It's about looking at your own reflection and not seeing a stranger. That's the hope. It's not that everything will be fine. It's that you can stop lying. You can be, finally, who you are. The relief of that is more powerful than any vitamin, any superfood. It lets you rest. I'm telling you this story because I need it to matter. I need my century of quiet to mean something more than just a warning. If you've heard even a little of your own story and mine, then do something with that feeling. Don't just let it sit there. If this made you think of a road you didn't take, or a love you didn't speak, then let this be your sign. Take it. And if this channel is a place where you find these kinds of stories, then make sure you don't miss the next one. Hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. It's a small thing, but it's a choice. It's saying yes to hearing truths that might shake you awake. If this meant something to you, leave a like. It tells me the echo of my story found a living heart. And in the comments, I'd love to know, what is one small true thing you could do this week to honor the person you really are or the love you really felt? Just one thing. Share it. You never know who you'll give courage to. And if you know someone who is living a careful, quiet life, maybe someone older who you feel has given up, share this with them. Send it quietly. It might be the nudge they need. Maybe they have a story of their own to tell. If they do, there's a link below where they can submit it. Stories are how we learn to live. We're all just walking each other home.